AM 954, ang tinig ng katotohanan, himpilan ng Iglesia ni Cristo, sumasahimpapawid mula sa Quezon City.
Don't be afraid to take the baby steps. It's another day, don't forget, 'cause just a prayer away. Don't give up now, trust the process and keep learning. And if you need a friend, we're in this together, together, together. We're in this together, together, together. We're in this together, 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 together as a family in faith and melody.
Yes, hello, hello. Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of INCRadio's Faith and Melody. This is the place where we have meaningful conversations and listen to inspiring Iglesia ni Cristo, or INC, original music. I'm one of your hosts for today's broadcast. This is Jay over here in Australia, but also joining me today.
Hi everyone, I'm Belle here in the United Kingdom. Looking forward to having you in our conversation today.
And I'm Henry here in Germany, also looking forward to the conversation about forgiveness. Today we're talking about forgiveness because forgiveness is not easy, especially when the person we struggle to forgive most is ourselves. And so before we talk about forgiveness, we're also going to be talking about anger, guilt, pressure, learning to receive God's forgiveness so we can move forward. And so let's move forward with our conversation as we proceed straight to our kickoff chat.
Kickoff chat.
So, in our kickoff chat this morning, we're going to be asking the question, if forgiveness had a color, what would it be and why? So, let's think of other emotions or other things that exist that can present a color, like happiness. Happiness can be all colors that are fluorescent, sadness can be all colors that are dark. But what about forgiveness? What color can forgiveness be represented as? So, let's start with Belle.
Well, Henry, when I think of forgiveness, the color that pops up in my head is purple or lilac. Because, when you feel sad, you're feeling, there's a saying that you're feeling blue, right? So when you're sad, usually the color blue goes into place. And, you know, I like for me, purple comes up because it's like a transitioning color, like it's a different shade. And it comes from like the blue to, I don't know, like magenta or a different color that makes someone more happier because it's like the transitioning from hurt and sadness to uh reconciliation and happiness. So that's why I chose purple. What
That's
about
a full
you?
range. That's a full range of colors. I like that.
Yeah.
You're moving across this. For me, I think I'm gonna change my answer from previous. I'm actually gonna go with green, right? Kind of like the border that we have here on Faith and Melody. I feel like green kind of represents growth, right? So when you're growing past any disagreements or anything, or you need to forgive someone, I feel green. Although my wife would probably argue against this color because she sees green as jealousy, but I think green for me is a color for what I see when I think about forgiveness. How about you, Henry? Before we continue with our discussion.
So my answer is a little different. I don't know if this is a color, but I like what it represents. So I'm gonna stick to this answer. Say the color transparent, because when it's transparent, or actually the color light, right? Because when you have light shining through, but if light is shining through a mist or water, you have a rainbow effect of Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, violet, all shimmering through because any type of color can be represented. It's a clean slate. It's clear, clear like this glass of water. It's like you can make it into anything because you're starting all over again. It's a fresh start, and What do you do with that? It's the cleanest thing. It's so pure that you can drink it, right? It's if it was stained in some type of anger, it would probably be more filthy, dirty brown, or any type of other color you would not want to drink. But it's pure, so you drink that. So you drink that pure water of forgiveness. Hope there's some inspiration there with that little analogy. So quickly, just wanted to greet all those who are joining us today. They're still coming in. But Mario Oka, always happy to see you there. Always happy to see that you're tuning into Faith and Melody. That we will proceed. Well, first we'll go straight into our conversation. Actually, uh, we'll have our closing bumper for our kickoff chat. So that concludes our today's episode of or today's segment of kickoff chat.
Our next break is titled Life Transform. Let us know if it's something that you're willing to pick up as a
Kickoff chat.
So we are about to proceed to our topic discussion. And before that, I just want to give a quick shout out to those in our live chat. I know that we had a little bit of well, you couldn't hear us earlier, but now we see that you're all there. Hello to Kuya Mario Oka, of course. They're still tuning in with us all the way there in the Philippines. Greetings from the locale of Brixtonville, District of Caloocan North, as he always says. Hello, Kuya Mario. Thank you so much for always supporting. Brother Jared Rombo is also with us there from greeting us from the Ecclesiastical District of Northern Africa, local congregation of Awasi. And he says for him, the color white. Because for Brother Jared Rombo, white for him reflects forgiveness from the heart. And I think earlier as well, I think it was Kuya Johan there in our live chat that also said the color white, but I lost the comment on that already. But yes, thank you so much to those who participated in our kickoff chat. But as we go ahead and proceed into our choosing to let go topic discussion. You know, they say that holding on, it feels powerful, but letting go is stronger. Forgiveness begins when we choose peace over pride. And, you know, for many of us, I'm sure there have been occasions when forgiveness becomes a very important role, right? To keeping relationships strong, to mending disagreements and any issues, right? Forgiveness plays a big part of it as well. And as Christians, we all know the importance of being forgiven. So, in our own personal experiences that we've had, why is it sometimes easier, though, as human beings, right, between people to people? Why is it sometimes easier to hold a grudge than to forgive? Let's go ahead and share our thoughts here in the panel. But our Ohana that are tuned in with us right now, they're in our live chat. We would love to hear your thoughts over there. Why do you think it's sometimes easier for a person to hold a grudge rather than to forgive someone? Right? Because sometimes that seems to be like especially when you're younger, at least that's from what I've experienced. But go ahead, Belle, what's your thoughts on this? Do you find that holding a grudge can be a little bit easier at times? Do you find that easy right now instead of forgiving?
Sometimes it might be easier depending on the situation because you don't want to really go through the whole ordeal of having those difficult or hard conversations. And also because you still feel vulnerable and hurt. And that's why it's easier to, not address the problem sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
In certain cases, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that as human beings, it's normal to feel really emotional and still hurt by certain things. But that maybe that's why, like for certain cases, that's what happens. Jay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like sometimes when somebody does something wrong, right? It's usually our emotions are the first things that get heightened up, right? You feel like your trust was broken. You feel that they did something bad to you, so you feel like there's that rift that happens, right? And then your emotions get all riled up. There's either sadness or happiness. Well, not happiness, sadness or jealousy or something. How about you, Henry? Why do you think it's sometimes easier to hold a grudge rather than forgive?
So I think I remember somewhere reading or listening somewhere. I don't know if it was a fact, but someone said that 90% of our problems is caused by interactions with other people. I think people and how we deal with each other, whether it be at work, at school, even in our own family, um, it's the miscommunication, misunderstandings, or sometimes the misinterpreted intentions of each other just cause a negative reaction to a person that stimulates a bad emotion. Um, and I think that's just how strong the devil is in terms of getting a grasp of making us weak and making us susceptible to want to turn on someone else and to have a negative feeling, notion to someone. Um, and when something feels or perceives, or we perceive something to have been a wrong to us, whether it be a manager giving us too much work and unjustified rules, or a coworker who didn't hold the door for you while you were carrying something to into a building, and it's part of your job. These things happen, and immediately an emotion will stir up, and so you feel like someone did wrong to you. And I think that's just our natural human weakness, is to get a little defensive that maybe someone is trying to hurt us. And so we hold a grudge because we want to protect ourselves. We feel in some ways attacked, and we don't want to just be hurt. We want to somewhat protect ourselves. So we have an instinct to fight back a little. But we also forget that maybe there was no ill intention done unto us. Maybe these were just accidents. Maybe these were just like a manager just trying to trust you with a responsibility because they know you can do it, or someone didn't know you were there and they forgot to hold the door for you, or someone just said the wrong thing that they didn't remember that you had a certain experience that triggered an emotion in you. So these things can happen, but that initial reaction may not always be the right reaction. So that's why it's easier to hold a grudge, because you're just trying to protect yourself. You're trying to find stability, trying to survive. And if you let that go, it's almost like it's going to keep happening to you. So I think you just have a natural tendency to be angry in those situations, and that we'll talk about more deeper. That being angry initially is definitely not the right way to start.
No, that's true. I do agree with that. Like, definitely the emotions get riled up, right? They always say, like, it's one of the things that we have as it's one of the weaknesses that we have as humans is when our emotions drive us. That's why they always say it's important that you control your emotions. Otherwise, your emotions will control you, right? Because your emotions can make you do the wrong things many times because it can really be swayed quite easily, even from misunderstandings, right? You may not have you might have misunderstood what the intention was. Maybe the intention wasn't even there. I like that what you said, Henry. Like, maybe they were just thinking about something else. Maybe they were absent-minded, right? And they didn't even mean anything by it. But then you've already assumed the worst case, and then because of that, your emotions get riled up, right? So then, why do you think that? Why do you think our emotions usually stop us from forgiving? Because I think what's one of the barriers is that we don't think clearly because our emotions are all over the place and assuming, right? I've always learned something that I've learned in my life is it's always a bad thing to assume because your perspective gets skewed, your emotions get played on. So why do you think that? Why do you think emotions is the one thing that stops us from forgiving? Belle, maybe you can start.
I believe that um, as has as Henry mentioned earlier, that it's the heat of the situation as well, you
Yeah.
know, and it's so like it really clouds your judgment because um, you answer because no um, you listen to answer, you don't listen to understand. You know what I mean? So um, not only you don't feel validated, but also the other person doesn't feel validated, and that's why um, it can it can hinder us from uh, going going to forgive them and for them to forgive us. Jay and Henry.
Jared, Jared, there in our chat says sometimes the feeling of disappointments makes one feel depressed, hence leads to sadness, causing one maybe to hold a grudge, right? Rachel in Essential, also there in our chat, thank you for tuning in with us, as always. She says it may be easier to hold a grudge because depending on the experience, it acts as a protective mechanism. Pretty much what Henry was saying as well. It can trigger a painful experience. Henry, maybe you can share with us your thoughts on why emotions can stop people sometimes from forgiving.
It's hard to take the high road because it's almost like sometimes you're permitting bad behavior or what you perceive to be bad behavior to be done to you. And so uh, it's like self defense, a natural instinct to inflict self defense, and the best defense is a greater offense. So just imagine a martial arts movie where someone is just you know swinging moves, and that person that might be you who's receiving some of those hits. Uh, what's your instinct? Is to fight back. So a lot more fighting happening, but in a different way. It could be words. It could be uh, plans to make someone look bad. It could be speaking evil against someone else, and all of the above is wrong. Because it's yes, you're trying to protect yourself, but you're also inflicting harm on somebody else that maybe does not deserve it. They definitely
Mm,
do not deserve harm, especially if they never intended harm. It's just that misunderstandings happen all the time, and if we let that emotion rule over us, then that only causes a chain effect of negativity, and the start of that chain may not even have been intentional. So it should always stop with you. If there is some type of uh, negative effect happening, and maybe even if it was intentional, there are other options to go about resolving that issue so no one else gets harmed in the process. And we'll talk about more deeper in a conversation later about what else we can do to find peace through whatever conflict you're going through. So definitely, emotions usually stop us from forgiving because we're trying to protect ourselves. Um, but we also have to think about how we're going to do that the right way.
yeah, I mean, like that's true. Like what I don't know if you've heard that phrase that when you get angry, you usually see red, right? And it blocks any other perspectives. Like you don't see the other person's point of view. You can't empathize with them. You can't see it from a different angle. All you see is red and anger. It's like, oh, right? And that's really what happens when when something wrong happens to you, right? And like what you said, your pride, perhaps, it stops you from showing any kindness, and all you see is red, and you just want to, like, you kind of like want to protect yourself in a way, and one way to do that is to, like, to fight, right? That kind of like related to that whole fight and flight response. So do you think holding on to anger, because that's kind of like one of the things that happens when you're talking about something where you need to forgive someone, right, or you need to let go of the situation or the issue, generally there is something that's making you sad, making you fearful, making you angry. Do you think holding on to that anger, do you think it affects our peace? And if so, why do you think it affects our peace if we hold on to the anger of that situation, especially for a prolonged period of time? Belle, maybe you can share with us your thoughts on that.
Uh, what's been said so far, about having your emotions cloud your judgment and like holding on to that negative emotion. Anger affects our peace in a way where it doesn't allow you to, you know, uh, fully or truly let go of that negative emotion because you're so into it. You're so committed to that emotion that you just you just forgot to let go. Like you just can't let go. And um, anger is one of the strong emotions that we have, and you know it really is tricky. And there's like a fine silver lining between letting yourself feel angry and like processing things and staying angry, because that's when you actually choose to stay angry like after a while. So yes, that's how from my personal experience, that's how um I feel like anger affects our peace and our, you know, um our thoughts as well during an uncomfortable situation. um Jay and Henry.
Yeah, I wanna add on to that. Like it really does create when you're holding on to that anger, that emotion, right? When someone's done something wrong to you. I mean, like it's normal as humans to feel angry, sometimes to feel hurt, right? Like let's not say that that's okay, right? If you feel hurt, if someone's hurt you, if someone's done something wrong to you, it's normal to feel angry, right? But holding on to that anger, right? Not letting go, right? Choosing to not let go instead of to let go on that anger. It steals your peace because it's constantly gnawing at you at the back of your mind, and it creates that inner tension within you, right? It steals your emotional energy because especially if it's someone you care for, if it's a close friend, your best friend, if it's a family member, if it's like someone that you completely trust that's done something wrong to you, right? And you don't talk about it, you don't work it out, you don't let it go, you don't find a way to forgive each other. Um, if that person means a lot to you, right? It's always going to be stealing something away from you every single day, right? No matter what happens, you're always thinking about it. You may not be thinking about it, but you know it's the issue is always there, right? And you're trying to like sweep it under the rug, and the rug's getting full because they've got so many other things under that rug, right? So it steals your emotional energy. I want to give a shout out as well to again Rachel Innocentius there. Kuya Rod Kahayag is there greeting us from Livermore, Northeast California. Thank you, Rod, for tuning in with us. We're talking about forgiveness, really, and why holding on to anger affects our peace. Before we continue, Henry, did you want to add anything else to this? Like, do you agree with that anger held on for a long time affects our peace?
Anger is heavy. I've seen in my own personal experience, a workplace environment, I'm sitting between two very friendly mothers, and they thought one thought the other was angry with the other, and the other thought the other was angry with the other, but they never talked about it. And so when they talked to me about it, they would both cry about it. They would be very emotional, and they were like angry at the situation, not necessarily angry at each other. Confrontation, it can be very hard for some people for some reason. Uh, it's maybe it's the movies and the dramas that we watch of confrontational situations where people lose their emotions, but uh, without confronting the situation, and they held anger to each other, to the situation, and they would just end the workday very exhausted after all of this. This kept on going, and so peace, how do we find peace? Anger will not lead us to peace, definitely. So holding on to anger basically delays and extends the ability to achieve peace, and it'll just tire you out, and it brings out the worst in a person. uh, we will always have an initial angry reaction to things, but when we learn to manage it, we learn the ability to achieve peace at a much faster rate.
Angry. Is that a word? Angry react. But it's true. Anger is heavy. I like what you said there. It's a waste of time and energy, and all that wasted time of just keeping it to yourself, holding on to that negative emotion of anger, right? It heats you up and it wastes a lot of energy. There's many times that's happened, and then I don't even remember what we were fighting about, right? I don't even remember what it was all about. So sometimes holding on for too long can definitely be something that is negative and not at all productive, progressive, growing through and helping the relationship become a lot more stronger if you don't have that proper way of dealing with it, right? So then we're gonna ask this question here. Actually, let me just quickly read this one from again from our Ohana there in chat, brother Jared Rombo, and as well Kuya Mario Oka is of course there tuning in with us still. Jared Rumbo says, holding on to anger for me affects my peace by even resulting in negative thoughts rather than the positive side, which I expect most in my daily life. Po. Like nobody wants to be angry, right? I agree with that. Like, and when you are holding on to that ill feeling of being angry, especially towards someone that you care about, a family member, a loved one, a friend, and you hold on to that anger and you guys don't talk about it. Yeah, I agree with that. It kind of fills you with negative thoughts rather than positive ones. And we all know negativity in our minds eats away at so many other things, right? Our confidence, our we get self-doubt, and you become really really sad, especially if it's someone that you care about and you're not talking for a long time. Have you ever experienced that when there's someone that you love, someone you're closely trusted confidant, as they say, but then you're not on speaking terms, you're not talking to each other. Usually you run to each other when things happen in your life, when things are sad, but now you're not because you're angry and you guys can't talk to each other to resolve it, right? It really is a waste of time. Rod Kahayag also has an acronym for us, as he always does, with the word anger, which is anger negatively generates emotional response. True. Like I think that's what we've been saying here. The emotional response that we get when we are sad, angry, depressed, it's all negative. It's not doing us any good. It's not helping us in any way. So let's continue on by asking, why are misunderstandings harder to resolve when emotions are involved, right? Since we've been talking about emotions, we've been talking about misunderstandings between people, between our loved ones and friends. Why do you think it's harder to fix that, to resolve that when emotions are heavily involved in the situation? Belle, what's your thoughts?
Well, Jay, I feel like from what I mentioned earlier about listening to answer and not listening to understand, that really weighs on why it gets harder to resolve when emotions are involved. And you're most likely going to be biased because in that heat of the moment, you'll feel so overwhelmed by really strong emotions, and you won't be able to, um, you won't be able to uh, fully or truly understand once you're really calm, because when it becomes really an emotional conversation, most of the time we are biased, and that doesn't really help the situation. And even though they say their part, they might not feel heard by you, and the same goes when you say your part and you not might feel heard by them. And in order to in order to resolve um those negative situations or like complicated situations, yeah, that's where we should try and be more open-minded when it comes to the other person's point of view. I believe that we were talking about giving the benefit of the doubt earlier, and that really goes into play when it comes to having misunderstandings, especially with your loved ones and your close friends, because giving the benefit of the doubt it really enables you to also be at peace, and it doesn't, like, that lingering negative thought won't create a bigger problem. You know what I mean? So when you're able to give the benefit of the doubt, then you'll be able to even feel more calmer during the resolution of things.
I like that. I mean, I'm learning so much from Belle's point of view when it comes to, especially when you're trying to fix a situation, a misunderstanding, and you've got that emotional aspect heavily involved in it. Henry, I'd like to hear your input as well.
So I'm going to reference superhero uh, movie, and wherein all of the characters, and this is fictional story. uh, the bad guy, the antagonist, basically set into motion a series of events that made all of the superheroes angry at each other. And what happened? Basically, their emotions all got out of control against each other, and they tore each other apart as a team. And so, how could they resolve it when their emotions blinded what they were doing? It was cool. They were all from a fan perspective. You see them all; they're all fighting. But in terms of uh, the camaraderie, the teamwork that they all used to have against fighting crime and fighting all the evil, they were torn apart by the emotions of disagreements, and they could never solve the the greater conflict because there was just deep cuts that they had never resolved against each other, and it was a unity that was shattered because of how angry, how torn, how hurt they were from each other's past, that they never dealt with it. And so they could never come together. The wrong things kept being said. It was just a series of misunderstandings that ultimately the bad guy won, right? And it was it was really sad to see how strong you can play with people's emotions, that you can really pull people apart.
Mm.
And they didn't choose forgiveness to each other. They chose basically what made them feel resolved to protect themselves. And so misunderstandings are hard to resolve when emotions are involved because you're not thinking clearly. You're thinking from hurt. You're thinking from pain. You're thinking not with clarity, but you're thinking with the color red. You're thinking with anger. So your judgment is completely clouded. Um, and so we cannot let our emotions, like Jay said, we can't let our emotions control us because we're not in control. Everything that we have learned, all the positive things that we've learned that guide us in the right direction, they're forgotten when our emotions get the best of us.
Yeah, I like that point of view, and just to really bring it all together, especially when it comes to we have misunderstandings can occur with people that we work with, right? People that we go to school with, our friends, our loved ones, but especially when it comes to someone that's very close to us. I'm sure someone that we completely trust, right? That we would go to for any situation or any news, right? But when a misunderstanding happens with someone that is really close to us, do you it sometimes becomes a little bit difficult to forgive those who are really close to us, because I think in my experience, again, the whole thing about I guess with judging other people is that we've been transparent with them, we really trust them, and there's that level of trust, right, that gets formed with someone that is your inner circle, right, your most trusted person that you go to and speak to about anything. But then when the misunderstanding happens between the two of you, it can make it somewhat difficult. So in your experience, let's hear from you first, Belle. What makes it difficult to forgive someone when someone that is very close to us? Go ahead, Belle.
I think it's more difficult when it comes from your inner circle because, well, you wouldn't expect it from them. You wouldn't uh, expect the hurt from them, and you know, most of the time, usually is because they weren't aware or it was just a misunderstanding. But when it comes from you know feeling hurt by their actions or you know their words, sometimes it affects us more because we care about them more deeply, right? And it's hard because you sometimes you tell yourself, "Oh, but I wouldn't have done that to them," or "I wouldn't do that if I were him or if I were her." So it just comes into a position where you're just so you just feel so misunderstood because you just don't understand the situation itself. And that's why having to give the benefit of the doubt sometimes is hard because for you it is as clear as daylight that, oh, what you did to me was wrong, or what you did to me
Mm,
didn't sit right with me, right? And maybe from their perspective is like, oh, I'm so busy, like like I'm trying to balance everything and like include everything and everyone like in my life, and etc etc. And maybe that was just like the moment that they slipped up, and they just didn't realize that you felt that way. So I feel like it is really human to feel hurt by those that we love the most, because yeah, it comes from if sorry, it comes from a place that you really thought it wouldn't come from, like hurt wouldn't come from. But of course, at the end of the day, um, it's up to you how you want to perceive the situation, right? And that's why it is really important to have that understanding and consideration with your loved ones as well, right, Henry?
Yeah. So this is one of the, I'll call it unusual things, is the people we hold closest to us. Uh, we set a higher standard for them because they see more than anyone else does, and they have access to the most tender part of who we are. And so we are a lot more sensitive to what they do, and even the most smallest uh, unexpected word, action, motion, commotion, bump will cause more. I don't want to say damage, but it will just cause more of a ruckus than any other type of person would. Like for example, one thing I find interesting in Germany is when I'm walking through the tight supermarket aisles, and uh and we're kind of just walking through. It's kind of crowded. You'll occasionally hear "excuse me" Entschuldigung in German. A lot of times you won't, but that's just naturally how they are. With a fast pace of people coming and going, you don't even have time to say excuse me. Sometimes that it's excusable. It's just part of the culture, maybe. But you definitely would not do that to your loved ones or the people that you know here. So those who you know definitely have to provide more, a little bit more compassion, especially those who are closest to you. Is the more compassionate we need to be. And sometimes because we're human, we forget. We don't intend to be uh, not compassionate. Sometimes uh, we'll just we assume that people will excuse our certain behavior, maybe our mood swings, and they're like, "Oh, why are you so angry?" It can just lead to misunderstandings. And so, uh, basically, uh, the closer someone is, I don't know why. I don't know why. We place them on some type of pedestal that you know how to treat me, but you mistreated me. Therefore, I'm more angry. I don't think it's a good thing. Maybe it's not, but that's just naturally what it is. And I just realized that as I was saying it out loud, Jay. I just learned that just now.
You know, there's that saying that trust is hard to get, but it's easy to break. Have you guys ever heard something like that? And it's
Like
so
glass.
true. Yeah, right? It's like once you have it, it's the most precious thing. But once trust is broken, I think I've always heard this saying that you can always put it back together, but the cracks will always be there, right? And it takes a long time to put glass back together. It's the same thing with trust. So it does make it difficult, but I think you really got to move past, it, especially if there's someone that's important to you, right? The wounds are deeper because, again, like you said, Henry, you're showing the most tender part of you, the most um, not transparent. I was thinking about what you said for the kickoff chat, the most vulnerable part of you, right? And you feel like, it's kind of like that thing when you see this type of future with not a future, but it's just because you know that you trust this person so much that you can always run to them. They always will be there for you no matter what through the toughest times. But then the trust gets broken and it just doesn't feel the same anymore. So the wound is just deeper. Right. But if there's someone that's very important, and trust me, it's happened to me a few times where the anger of the emotion went on for too long that you don't end up talking to them for months, even like a year or more than a year or something like that. It's happened to me. And then you start talking again, and it's like all that wasted time, right? All that wasted memories that you could have built together, and the growth and everything else over. And then when you think back, like after all that time, you guys sort it out and figure it out, it was like, was it really that big of a deal to lose, to lose someone special, or to lose someone that's important to you, to lose someone that has been giving you that much love and kindness, right? It's really hard, but you can still build it back together. And since someone that, me being a person that loves, like, some of the cultures and everything else that you see in other countries, and in particular Japan, right? There's this thing that they have, and I don't remember the Japanese term, but I'm sure if you look it up, you'll find it, where they fix broken bowls and broken glassware and things like that with gold. And it actually, they put it back together. It's been broken, but they put it back together, and all the cracks are filled in with gold, right? And it gives you, I think, the theory behind it, or like the beauty behind it, that they say is that it adds on a different layer of beauty to what was originally there, right? And it makes it even more beautiful if you can put it back together, and you can see that those cracks have put it back together, and they're still together, right? Even though they've gone through something challenging. And I think when it comes to marriage, when it comes to other friendships or relationships, right? Being able to mend the cracks together, and then put the pieces back together, and you guys are still together and working it all out, no matter what the misunderstanding was, no matter how big it was, right? How big the blowout was. It really changes the future and the beauty of those, that thing that you're looking at, the friendship, the connection, right? Whatever ship it is, it really does become something important. So I'm going to ask Belle and Henry, and of course our Ohana there in live chat. I still see, hello to Mario Calvello that's tuned in and listening to us here. Let me ask this final question before we wrap up this first segment of our topic discussion. How does choosing kindness change the outcome of the conflict? When you choose kindness, when you let go of all the negative emotions, you let go of the anger that you've been holding on to, and you choose kindness to fix, for the conflict, to the misunderstanding, how does it change that? I'm going to start with Belle. Go ahead, Belle.
Earlier Henry mentioned that anger is really heavy. When you choose
Yes.
kindness to change the outcome of conflict, and when you're to be the bigger person, it really brings so much peace and relief, even because those emotions, or even those negative emotions, really weigh you down. It makes you feel overwhelmed as well. So when you choose kindness, it really relieves you from that burden, and it brings you the peace that you were seeking for, uh, and the resolution as well. And it also spreads it to others, not only between the two parties that have conflict, but also to the people that surround them. Because um, it really goes to show that at the end of the day, um, being happy and bringing peace to one another really is contagious, and it brings everyone together, and makes everyone feel more closer to one another as well. Jay.
Yeah, being more happy, being more closer together is really important, especially if someone that you're close with and someone that's important in your life. Henry, what's your input on this one?
So the question, I'm going to repeat it again so that my answer makes sense. How does choosing kindness change the outcome of the conflict? So my response to that is choosing to be kind to yourself first, because sometimes being kind to the actual conflict may not be the best response to the conflict. But if you're kind to yourself, in terms of respecting yourself, to not want to mistreat yourself, and you want to find some level of peace within yourself for the sake of finding peace, you choose to take the high road, and sometimes even the hard road, against the conflict. So kindness to people is one thing. Kindness to yourself is knowing how to not just protect yourself, but protect yourself in the right way. And also to remind yourself to seek peace in the conflict. And in terms
Mm.
of how to combat the conflict itself, whether it be a misunderstanding or any type of issue that might just even not be someone who is a bad guy. We sometimes think of conflict as you're fighting a bad guy. It's not always about good guys versus bad guys. Sometimes the conflict is, uh, they call it social construct, or uh, two perspectives clashing, right? That doesn't mean that the other person who has a differing perspective is a bad guy. You're just seeing two things in a different way. So, what do you seek for? You seek for understanding, you seek for compromise, you seek for peace. Basically, we just have to confront those difficult situations, not with anger, but with a goal to find peace. And I think that's the way to choose kindness, is that you're kind to the situation, you're kind to yourself, but you confront the conflict not in a way that you're trying to defeat the other person. You're just trying to solve the problem. And so when you choose kindness, you're choosing peace. You're choosing forgiveness, you're choosing understanding. And I think that's what you want to aim for, is finding peace in that way.
I like that. That's a great reminder, and that's I totally can relate with that, because sometimes choosing kindness can be the harder choice. Because, like what you said, Henry, it's about choosing to understand, choosing to keep the peace, right? But when your emotions are all heightened negatively with anger and sadness and broken trust and those feelings, right? It's very hard for someone to seek understanding, to seek peace with the other person, because like that anger is like right there, the emotions are right there. But I agree, it's very true. Like, you should be seeking for trying to understand the other person, or trying to understand what they're trying to say, or their point of view, trying to understand the situation. But also the peace part is most important, right? uh, you know, there's a lot more that we'll be talking about with this, regarding this topic of choosing to let go. But before that, I just want to quickly read as well. Maybe Belle, you can read out like the last comment that we've got there, and we've got more to talk about, especially when it comes to being kind, like what Henry said earlier, being kind to ourselves, because sometimes that kindness is mistakes that maybe not other people have done, but maybe mistakes that we see ourselves doing, right? So we got to be kind to ourselves as well, too. We got to seek understanding and peace for ourselves as well. We'll talk about that after our musical break. But Belle, if you could just read the final comments we've got there in our chat, and just intro the next song that we've got for our musical break.
We have here Brother Jared Rombo saying, choosing kindness may change the outcome of conflicts by resulting in agreement and even the solution of the conflict, bro. And thank you so much for that, Brother Jared. And for our next song, we have In His Hands. We'll be right back.
Her heart is hurt, it's bleeding. Her eyes speak pain, they're pleading. Trials won't stop from coming. She's badly bruised, but she keeps on walking. She stands against the darkness, her sorrow makes her weep, but she's not at all defenseless. There's one hope she gives. You turn your side upon the skies, her God will come and dry your eyes. So fix your gaze upon the prize, your Savior the day he's searching. His illness grows inside him. He must endure the pain he's suffering. All hope seems lost, but he keeps on waiting. Each step just seems so heavy as he battles for his life. But he's not alone, defenseless. There's one hope inside. You turn your sight upon the skies, or God will come and dry your eyes. All you endure, he understands. Have faith, for you are in his hands. You think you've crossed the threshold of what you can bear, though no one seems to care. Remember, you're in the hands of the one who's always there. Your heart is hurt, it's bleeding. Your eyes speak pain, they're pleading. You turn your sight upon the skies, or God will come and dry your eyes. All you endure, he understands. Have faith, for you are in his hands. You turn your sight upon the skies, or God will come and dry your eyes. So fix your gaze upon the prize. You're safer than you realize. You turn your sight upon the skies, our God will dry your eyes. All you endure, he understands. Have faith, for you are in his
This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
So have you ever given a speech where a presentation for school or you were just called to be a speaker and you said things that you did not plan to say? You maybe had some stage fright and wrong words came out. Or you played a sport activity and you didn't perform the play or the drawn up play the way you had designed. You didn't win the game. Or you had a dance choreography for a certain presentation and you missed a few steps. And after it was all said and done, you really thought about what went wrong and you had trouble sleeping at night because you're a harsh critic on yourself. You were analyzing yourself. What did you do wrong? Or maybe even some of those smaller situations where, I don't know, for me, if this has happened to me a few times, walking through the supermarket and you see a coworker or a friend you did not expect to see, and you can't even say hi because you just don't know what the right words to say, and you kind of you fumble on your words, you embarrass yourself for a bit, and hours later you're like, what did I say to him? What that didn't make sense. You just feel embarrassed sometimes of the things that come out of your mouth because it's just you're so harsh on yourself. So first question we're going to ask in this part of our discussion, in your opinion, why are we sometimes our own harshest critics? So there may be situations in which you put yourself out there in some form, especially if you're an introvert. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you put yourself out there, and it's a risk if you're an introvert to put yourself out there and you present yourself in a way that it did not go as you had rehearsed in your mind. The main idea didn't come across. You stammered over your words a little bit, and maybe there were some criticisms that you had received that you believed to be true, and you really inflicted onto yourself more harm than you should have. So, in your opinion, why are we sometimes our own harshest critics? I'm going to ask Belle first. How harsh of a critic are you to yourself, Belle, when it comes to certain situations? You know, are you a harsh critic to yourself, and why do you do that to yourself?
Henry, when you said that sometimes you put our loved ones and closest people on a pedestal because we have those expectations of them. I feel like that also goes with ourselves as well. Like we have our own expectations from our own selves, and apart from the peer pressure and the pressure from like the people surrounding us, I feel like we ourselves, since we know ourselves more than all the others, except from our God, Almighty God, of course, but we are so accustomed to our own being. Like we see everything. There's like no filters, right? And um, that's why uh, we might find ourselves being our harshest critiques because we expect more from ourselves because all cards are on the table, right? And everything is like clear to us, right? So you would also think, oh yeah, then if I have all of these qualities, then I'll be able to do it. Or if I have all of these qualities, why wasn't I able to do it? You know. So I myself, I sometimes put myself in that situation. Not all the time. I try to be more patient with myself as well because the more patient you are with yourself, the more you're also be able to give to others more patience, uh, more peace as well, because our thoughts and our opinions of ourselves also reflect on how we behave towards other people. So that's why I feel like uh, we are very hard on ourselves. And also because since we are so accustomed to what we're doing, our progress feels much more stagnant, even much more slower, even stagnant, because we are so up close to the process of things that we don't see it moving. It's like when you're refreshing um, a website, and I don't know, there's like the loading bar, and it says loading, and it's for you it's not moving, but like it's still processing. So I'm not as tacky as Jay and Henry over here, but hopefully that pictured that put a clearer picture in your head. But yes, that's why we feel like, oh, why am I not doing enough? Oh, why am I not moving as fast as I thought I could. But at the end of the day, those small steps really make up for the bigger things in life, the bigger milestones, the bigger um the bigger achievements. So I feel like at the end of the day, as long as you're consistent, especially in being prayerful and seeking our Almighty God's help, then that's when we'll learn how to be patient, not only with the things that we are handling, but most especially with ourselves as well, Henry. But what about you, Jay? Like, do you resonate with what I said?
Yeah, especially the loading bar, and usually you're staring at it and you're wondering if it's moving. So you put your mouse cursor where it is to see if it goes positive. Like, okay, it's moving, right? Because you can't tell. It's true. Like when it's about you, when it's about yourself, you don't really see the changes happening. So I get what you mean. What you mean with that? Like you don't realize that you're getting slimmer, or the opposite. You don't realize you're getting fatter, right? Because it's like yeah, it's seen from an external point of view, right? We've gotten so many times that people have come up to us and seen our daughter, seen Lena, and we're like, wow, she's grown up now. She's so tall, she's so big, and we're just like, oh, is she? Right? Because you don't realize, because you see them all the time. For me, I can relate so much to what Paul Jacob Berese here in our chat has said. I'm gonna just basically read this because it's basically how I feel as well. He says, sometimes even if we try our best to do something, it still can feel like it isn't good enough. And he also shared earlier, sometimes we are our own harshest critics because we have high expectations for ourselves. And when we don't meet them, it can be frustrating. So true. Henry said earlier, you rehearse the dance steps, but you still make mistakes. That happened to me as well during, one of the performances that we had here for the Australia uh, 30, as was 40 years in the West, right? And this was in the Opera House, Sydney Opera House here in Sydney as well, right? You're part of the dance group for the song performances, so you're kind of like behind in the background, but you're still there, right? And if the dance choreography is everyone goes down, but then you're the one that's standing up, it's completely obvious. So it's almost like, yeah, exactly what it says there. Sometimes you practice, you hold yourself to a higher standard, right? But then you still make mistakes, and it's like, I should have known better. And just the frustration that comes out of it. So that's it for me, Henry. It's like you're just frustrated because you just know that you can do better than what you performed at. Yeah.
So Jay, you were able to draw that up pretty fast. So that's a good segue to our next question. In your experience, have you ever blamed yourself for something longer than you should have? So this therapy for you, Jay. Do you still blame yourself for those missteps? And are you
Every
blaming
single
yourself?
day. Right now, it just made me think about it. I was like, oh no. But it happens. It still happens, right? Probably not as long as before when I was younger, but now it still happens now and then. I'd be holding on to replaying the video image in my head of what happened and what I could have done better. Right? I think it happens to most of us, right? Right, guys? Yeah. Right. It happens like you just replay. You're sitting in bed. You're trying to get to sleep, especially on the day of when you made the mistake, and you just can't get to sleep because you're just thinking there, and you just stay up all night thinking about the mistake or the action. So it's gotten a lot shorter holding on or replaying that mistake from me, Henry.
All right, Bill. I know you do a lot of public presentations and maybe choreography or musical presentations or anything
Even
that you
sports,
put
right?
yourself out there. Sports too.
Yeah, volleyball.
Volleyball, share an experience, and it's okay. I don't blame you for it, but this is a time where has that happened to you? You blamed yourself longer than you should have. Maybe you missed a pancake save or a nice volley. Share
I
your
feel like
experience.
in volleyball, there's a lot of instances where, um, I don't know, my timing is not there, and sometimes it's not my day. I'm like, oh, I'm so physically tired, like, and the training is long, which I like, I enjoy, but like physically, I'm not there. I'm like, bro, like, uh, cut me some slack. But it's because we film our training sessions, especially the games, like the games sessions towards the end of the training. And there's so many funny moments, and it's so like when it comes to that, like it's just so funny. I just replay it and I'm like, oh, that's where I made the mistake, and like it's just so funny. And I feel like being able to see those and then like, okay, next time I won't do that, or like next time I'll try to avoid like doing that. Uh, so yeah, um, when it comes to those certain occasions, like I don't really blame myself. I'm just like, oh, I know like my limits. Like I tried my best. Like I was there as much as like I was there and I gave what I could. But when it comes to more on a more serious topic, I feel like yeah, I still kind of blame myself. Um, some nights. And at the end of the day, it's normal to feel guilty for something that you thought you were able to do, but then you didn't. And um, that's when you need to be able to self-soothe as well. Like, you know how you like soothe others, like by giving them the comfort that they need and like the words of affirmation that they need. Like, we should also like try to practice that on ourselves as well. Like being able to uh, reassure ourselves that at the end of the day, as long as we have God on our side, we will be able to make it, and we will be able to do it and achieve what we have set our heart on. And you know, although sometimes we make embarrassing mistakes, or sometimes you feel like, oh man, like everyone saw that. At the end of the day, like some people don't even like notice that, you know, like Henry and Jay, like some people you're like, oh wait, that happened. Like at the end of the day, it might not be as deep as you think it is, because since we are so onto ourselves, uh we feel like, oh wait, like that was so embarrassing, like oh man, like at the end of the day, like people just like laugh it off and just like call it a day. You know what I mean? Like they won't really dwell on it. Like you just need to be able to go with the flow when it comes to that. But you know, uh, it's about perspective and mentality at the end of the day. You need to be able to rise up um, when it comes to making a mistake as well.
Jay, I want to ask you this question. I think you can relate to this. So, when you go to a fast food restaurant, you order your food, and you get your food, and they say, "Have a great day, enjoy your meal." And then Jay, you say,
And I say, "Oh yeah, you too." Right? It's
"But they're
it's
the ones who gave the
happened.
food."
It's happened so many times, Henry. It's like especially when you get the delivery ones where they deliver to your door, right? And then they hand it to you, right? Because sometimes you can set that, give me the food just to make sure nobody else takes it, right? And they say, like, enjoy, and then you're like, you too, because you expect them to say something else like have a good night or something like that, right? But then they say enjoy your food, and you just go like, yeah, you too.
I
Yeah,
I've
it's like,
accepted I've accepted that.
why? Why? Yeah.
Yeah, so I still do it to this day. Actually, just did it when I got some Chinese food. They're like, "Enjoy your meal, have a good day." Like you too, and I walk back smiling, but I still like, you know what? It's just my default saying. I'm gonna keep saying it. That shouldn't stop. So, in relation to what Belle said earlier, in regards to volleyball, I used to have a fear every time in volleyball as an elementary student in the third, fourth, or fifth grade. When the ball came to me, I was so afraid. Um, I didn't even want to play volleyball. And actually, one of the reasons why I never played basketball in elementary school days was the embarrassment of or fear of every time the ball would come to me, I would do something wrong. I would turn the ball over, whatnot. Um, I faced my fear probably in intermediate and high school, um, where yes, I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of turnovers. I made a lot of missed shots. But I also made some shots. I also made some good passes. I also played some defense, stole the ball. I still made turnovers. I still made mistakes. Bottom line is that's what when you play sports or when you don't play sports, what you walk through every notion of life or anything. You make mistakes. You learn from those mistakes. You do the right thing the next time. And even if you try to do the right thing and still the wrong words came out of your mouth, you still learn from that and you try even harder the next time. So you start to learn. And I say this with honesty. I don't embarrass easy anymore because I've embarrassed myself enough in life to to say the wrong thing, to say you too every time they say enjoy your meal or enjoy your coffee. You too. And I go on my merry way. So I don't embarrass. I get nervous for things here and there before something happens. Like for example, the start of the show. I always get nervous at the start of every broadcast, but during the broadcast, I'm comfortable now because I've experienced it enough to be able to speak from my mind, from my heart, from a good place where with peace. When you're able to speak with peace, then you speak with clarity. When you speak with anger, you don't know what you're saying. When you speak with emotion, you don't know what you're saying. You're clouded with something. But when you immerse yourself with enough experience and enough times in that moment, you're able to not be so hard on yourself. So next question is, why do we unrealistically set so high expectations of ourselves that exhaust us? Why do we expect perfection from us? Why do we think that we need to not make any mistakes for ourselves? Like Jay or Bell, whoever wants to go first. Why do we want to have a perfect execution, a perfect standard for ourselves? And if we don't reach that standard, we're so disappointed in ourselves. And how do unrealistic expectations exhaust us? Let's start off with Bell first.
I feel like since we do um, have that access to ourselves in a way where we know everything about ourselves, um, it puts us in a position where, well, since I can do this, I can do more. I know my potential. I know what to do. I know the steps to get there. Um, I'll try to get the resources, and I feel like those unrealistic expectations exhaust us in a way where it really adds up to all the pressure that you already have, and it adds unnecessary criticism that might hold you down. And I'm not saying that all criticism is bad, because there is um what is it called? uh no, what's the type of
Say
criticism?
it in Italian, and then we'll
It's okay. I'm like, my brain is a bit foggy right now, but um there is only a certain amount of
constructive.
criticism put in. Yeah,
Is it
constructive. Yes. Construct Sorry. Thank you for that, Jay. But yes, there's only a certain amount of criticism that one can take, right? And uh of course, constructive criticism is helpful, but when you keep adding, oh, maybe I should have done this, oh, maybe I should have done that, when you've already done like really well. Imagine like you get a gold medal, and you're like, oh man, like I should have done this, should have done that. And like, okay, that's okay. Like that's for the next, that's for you to think, that's something that you should think about for the next time that you compete. But in that moment, maybe like just soak it all in, right? Like try to enjoy the moment and like just be grateful, and uh, be able to be happy in that moment, rather than like adding that unnecessary criticism, or like, oh, I should have been like this, should have been like that. Oh no, I forgot to do that step, or I forgot, uh, I don't know, I forgot to bring my water bottle in that moment. I don't know, something along those lines. I know that the small things, uh, like small things matter, and they make up for the bigger things, but there should be like balance between that, right? Because otherwise you won't be able to find happiness anywhere, and the small things usually should bring you the happiness that you need in your everyday life as well. So that's why I feel like that the unrealistic expectations that we have on ourselves really um really could like hold us back, even instead of pushing us uh, to greater, like to greatness, I guess.
greater height, right? I'm going to add on to what you said there, because it's true that constructive criticism is good, right? Definitely, if the constructive part is in there, it's not just the criticism part, right? You need to know how to develop. But I think that the question that we're asking as well is like the unrealistic expectations we set on ourselves, right? That's why, when what's that one, Henry, that they use in business when it comes to determining your progress, and you're setting goals, right? Smart goals. I think one
Smart
of the
goals, yeah.
letters when it comes to smart goals, I think it's the R, right? Is it the R where it has
Yes,
to
are
be
realistic.
realistic? It has it, and if you're setting an unrealistic expectation, a simple one is that, oh, I'm gonna lose 10 kilos by the end of the week in like 7 days, right? Or it's some things that are unrealistic. If you're chasing something that's unrealistic, it leads, and we've covered this here on Faith and Melody, quiet burnout, or even maybe loud burnout, right? If you're chasing something that's unrealistic, you're putting so much pressure on yourself, and that gets so tiring, especially if it's not making you happy, right? I think the biggest growth and development that you will find for someone to enjoy what they're doing is if they're enjoying what they're doing, right? So if you're setting unrealistic expectations on yourself, you're going to be filled with the negative side of the emotions of that spectrum, right? It's not going to make you happy. You're chasing a fairy tale, right? You're chasing something that's and maybe it's unachievable in the time frame that you've set for yourself. So you gotta. It gets very tiring in that sense. I'm trying to think of an example from me of something that I've done chasing an unrealistic expectations, learning a new skill, actually learning a new skill that you've never done before, especially if it involves maths and you're not very good at maths, right? You can't do algebra or anything like that. But then you're chasing this new skill, but then you're setting yourself that by 6 months, I'm going to be like a pro at it. And you don't hit the milestones that you're hitting, and it just weighs you down like week after week after week after month, right? And it just, by the end of all of it, you're just physically tired, and you don't have the joy, and you don't have the happiness, and you don't have the ability to enjoy what you're doing. So whatever it is that you're setting yourself towards, right? Having expectations is good, but having unrealistic expectations, well, that can only give you unrealistic results too. Anyway, that's from me, Henry.
Yeah, so I think we it's okay to uh strive for perfection, but knowing that uh you're gonna progress in that direction. I think the major point in all that is you are getting at least 1% better every day. Are you gonna get 10% better today? Maybe. Are you gonna get 10% better tomorrow? Probably not. You might have some breakthrough moments where you'll succeed more than you'll fail. Personally, for me, there is an IT certification that I had tried to reach that I've seen someone acquire that within a couple of years. Someone younger than me. Um, and in my head, I thought if he can do it, so can I. So I tried, and fast forward 10 years later, I still have not come even close to what he had achieved in 2 years. There's just so many differences in everyone's story that his story was he was a single guy with no family. He has a family now. He's a happy. He has a this is just someone I know that I still maintain good relations with. He he succeeded, but his circumstances were different. I had already married with a child with a lot of different things in my story that we can't compare ourselves to others. And that's the thing with expectations that we can sometimes look at other people's stories, try to compare, and think that, why am I still on chapter 2 and he's already finished the book? Well, then again, we need to remember and realize that we're walking multiple paths of different progressions and different aspects of our lives. And what makes our life a little different is the path to our salvation. We are also helping others along the way with what we're doing in our responsibilities, and that there is some sacrifices of what we're trying to achieve here in our careers and in our schooling that they're logically we'll not be able to achieve all of that we're trying to accomplish here on earth. But what we do need to achieve is to ensure that we're pleasing our Almighty God in what we do, because He deserves the best of what we have to offer. And so, with all the expectations that we have to ourselves, let's not be so hard on ourselves, because God's already forgiving us for all the things that we failed along the way too. Um, but He's still helping us to progress in our journey, whatever it is that we want. We pray for certain things. We may not even get those things, but we're still close to Him. And I think that's what we need to realize, is that as long as God's with us throughout the whole time of our journey, whatever we're experiencing, that we don't need to be so hard on ourselves. It's gonna exhaust us. So I think we need to forgive ourselves for where we see ourselves falling short, because God already forgave us, because we're putting Him first. We're trying our best. We're always constantly praying unto Him, asking for His guidance. And even if we fail on the goals that we intend for ourselves, about trying to get a certification, or trying to perfectly execute a dance number, or trying to succeed on a university exam, you know, we try our best. But did we perform our duty? Were we able to succeed in helping someone out, sharing our faith this week? Were we able to, those are the other things that probably that we can set expectations on those, because that's what God's expecting us to do. And so I think that's the only expectation that we need to achieve for ourselves, is fulfilling God's commandments. Those are the ones that matter most, not on the perfect execution of a public speaking event, or a speech that you gave, or a musical performance. No, so let's forgive ourselves for that kind of thing. And actually, that's our next question. How do we forgive ourselves for these certain things that we experience? For example, how do we forgive ourselves for thinking less of ourselves? Sometimes we look at ourselves in a not so good light, or a uh, put yourself down sometimes. And I can say that with experience. I put myself down sometimes too, because not reaching a certain level of performance, then I start to think less of myself. Or what about not meeting our own standards? You set a standard for yourself. Well, I feel like I'm way below that standard. I did not perform up to par in this certain uh, certain speech, or this certain event, or this certain project, and that's why my boss is mad at me. How do we forgive ourselves for overworking and tiring ourselves out? Where you just work so hard on something, but the output of it exhausted you to a burnout that you've never experienced before, and you can't forgive yourself for it, and you're afraid to undertake another project like that again, because maybe your approach wasn't so good, maybe your planning wasn't so good, but you're also so very hard on yourself. So, Belle, from your perspective and the life that you live, whatever you want to share, how do we forgive ourselves in these situations? Pick any of the three: forgiving ourselves for thinking less of yourself, not meeting your own standard, or just overworking.
Well, to forgive myself for any of those situations, I feel like being patient with yourself really, really goes into play. And it's not something that happens overnight, of course. And it's not something that will be easy to do, of course. It's something easier said than done. But if you actually put the work and a consistent effort into trying to do what you can, you'll be able to forgive yourself in a way where that God gives you the life and the strength that you need. And if you already feel exhausted after doing a lot of things and you still feel like you haven't done enough, just look at yourself and be grateful, because God is the one who provides us with the strength, right, Henry and Jay? So, in order for us to forgive ourselves, to in those uh, moments of weakness, in those moments of where you feel insecure, even, I feel like we should trust not ourselves more, but our Almighty God, because that's where everything that we have comes from, right? And we shouldn't rely solely on our own, or on our own capabilities, because um, you know, God is the one that is truly guiding us and truly giving us the blessings that we need. So, what I experienced so far, even if I ever thought of me in a, if I ever looked down on me or not met my own standards, I feel like that's where I decided to, slow down and take things uh, in a manner where I'm able to process things more efficiently. Because when you take up so many things at the same time, you say yes to everything, and even your own expectations, you will feel burnt out. And you will feel so overwhelmed that you will feel stuck. So for me, like, going in a slower pace and doing things one at a time, maybe that's the fastest way. Doing the slower, like doing everything slower, might be the fastest way for you to get where you need to be. So yes, it takes a lot of time and effort, of course.
I'm gonna add on before I add my part on that, Bell. I'm just gonna give a quick shout out to Manong Delmar that's there in our chat as well. To hello to Joshua Rubik that's there as well, and Crystal Lee greeting us from the locale of Sacramento, Northeast California. You know, forgiving yourselves sometimes it's the most challenging thing. Kind of like what we just been talking about, how we are our own harshest critics. We hold ourselves to this sometimes unrealistic standard of doing things, right? So, but it's very important that we do as well, right? We do forgive ourselves. We show ourselves kindness, and we let go of the things that we're human. We're not perfect. There's always areas that we're working on, we're improving, and I think with that, as long as we're doing the right thing, we're following God's commandments, we're living life righteously, we're treating people kind, we're doing our best, as long as you're doing your best and you're taking action, then I think it's important that as much as we receive grace from our Almighty God, that we practice grace with ourselves as well, with the things that we fall short on. Right? We're not perfect in everything that we do. There's always going to be someone that's better than us, or that's walked a different path than us. That's why they're more ahead of us. Right? You gotta give yourself some grace. Practice grace, and set realistic expectations. Don't try to think that you're gonna, everyone's situation is different. That's one thing that I've realized in my life, is that the situations, the circumstances, the things that they've gone through, the challenges that they've had to overcome, the obstacles that they've had to, get over. Like, everyone's different. So set realistic expectations. As long as you're doing your best, and that you're doing the right thing, you're doing the good thing, you're doing the things that God wants, then everything will fall in its right place. And sometimes what you have to understand, or at least what I've understood in life, is that the plans and the goals that you've set for yourself may not be the goals that God has set for you. And God knows the best for us, right? So give yourself some grace, give yourself some kindness, and open your eyes to perhaps God is pointing you to a different direction, right? I am not in a place where I thought I was going to be when I was 10, 20 years ago or anything like that, right? But the place that I'm in right now, I feel so blessed, right? And everything just fell in its right place. Being able to meet the people, even whether it's in person or even online like this on INC Radio and live chat here on the panel, meeting Henry there in Germany and Belle in the UK. I never thought that would happen. And all of those different things as well. Kuya Rod Kahayag's there, Brother Jared Rumbud all the way there in Africa, right? Like Kuya Manong Delmar in Hawaii. Like, I wouldn't have imagined where I am, in my life right now, 10, 20 years ago. So just let everything fall in its place. Just do your best and show up and do your best. And I think that's the best thing. And overall, when it comes to protecting your own peace as well, set boundaries and stick to your boundaries, right? When your boundaries say no, then no, don't give any leeway or anything like that. Boundaries are important when it comes to friends, to family, to other people. Everything has its boundary. That's why even as Christians, we have boundaries on what we can and can't do, right? What we can and can't, the way that we live our life, there's boundaries there. Stick to the boundaries, set the boundaries, and abide by them, and that will help you maintain your peace, right? I think that's the main thing that I wanted to share there. Um, Back to you, Henry.
Yeah, and so the word forgiveness is the word that comes after trust fails. So when you trust someone and they let you down, or when you trusted yourself to do something and you let yourself down, the good thing to come from that is forgiveness. But then there's also the flaw of trusting in other people and trusting ourselves, because I mean, yes, it's okay to trust someone to pull through, but knowing that we are all imperfect, that there is a risk and there is a chance of disappointment. And that's why we can often disappoint ourselves too when we trust ourselves to perform or proceed in a certain way and it didn't go to our plan. So we don't really believe so much in trusting ourselves. That's why we entrust everything to God. And that is what gives us the ability to let go and let God be the one to help us to succeed in whatever it is that we are praying for, we are asking Him for, hoping that we will succeed in what we do. We will do our best uh, with whatever we're given, and we will learn something from whatever we experience. But as long as we place it in God's hands and the outcome of it, and we do our best, we do our part, then why would we be disappointed? I mean, we tried our best, and we ask for God's guidance, and He takes us to a path of where He will find success for us. And it's not always going to be a path that we had envisioned for ourselves, but something that He had planned for us all along. And I think that's what matters the most, is that in all that we do, we ensure that we include God in our plans. And then, our trust is into Him for everything that will proceed on with our life. So we proceed to our final question for our topic, Bell, for our discussion today. Practical steps that we can do to practice forgiveness. Some Did I say that correctly? Go ahead. I'll let you take over.
Yes, I feel like since we talked about being patient, patient with ourselves, and being able to forgive ourselves, what are some ways for us to do that? You know, um, Personally, I feel like not jumping to negative conclusions. That's the first step. Like being able to give it the benefit of the doubt, and um, always be prayerful, like always being prayerful and staying prayerful. But yes, what about you, Jay?
I'm gonna quickly read because I feel like what our Ohana there in live chat have been sharing kind of applies to this question as well on practical steps. Kuya Kahayad says, choosing to let go also means to love yourself. And he gave us a really nice acronym for choosing to let go, which is the title of today's topic, which is choosing to let go. His acronym goes, creating happiness on our special incidents, never giving up, truly offering love, especially to give ourselves. I like that. So that's totally relatable. Joshua Rubik says, let go and let God. And he also says, give yourself grace. Brother Jared Brombo says, I forgive myself by putting my trust in our Almighty God, relying on what God can do po. And Manang Delmar says that he forgives himself with some plate lunches. So give yourself some plate lunches, so some food. For me, the thing that I would do as a practical step is something that my dad actually has instilled in me ever since I was single digit age, really small, still young, right? And it's something that's stuck with me, and hopefully it'll stick it'll stick with you all as well, which is the acronym UTAREL, right? UTAREL. It doesn't really I don't know if that's an actual word, but the acronym is UTARO, which is stands for, it's an acronym, right? So Kuya Rod, it's an acronym, understanding, tolerance, acceptance, respect, empathy, and love. And I feel like you need all of those things to be able to practice forgiveness, because forgiveness should come from a place of love, from a place of kindness, whether it's to your friends, to your colleagues. It comes from a place of love and understanding and kindness. So you need to be able to understand, right? Seek understanding, as Henry said earlier. You need to be able to tolerate, because people have shortcomings, people have weaknesses, people have things that you need to tolerate, but not just tolerate, you need to accept it as well. Tolerating is just you're putting up with it. Accepting is being able to accept and really accept them as who they are, and in all of their faults, right? In all of their strengths and weaknesses, and all of their faults, you accept them. But then you also respect, right? There's a sense of respect that you need to be able to show to the other person. You don't put them down for anything else, right? So you can work together. You need empathy. So you need to be able to empathize and put yourself in their situation, see it from their point of view, which is always very hard when your emotions are heightened and negative, and all you see is red. You need to be able to empathize. So with all of those things, you'll be able to do things with love. And whether that's forgiveness, showing kindness to them or to yourself, you need to be able to do that. So you, Taro, that's my final one there.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that, Jay. And I feel like it really comes in handy because since it's a lot of words, you just say that one word, that one acronym, and everything else is just there, right? And I feel like when it comes to being able to forgive someone, it it comes with intention, right? And it comes with being genuine and having a genuine heart with them, and to and being able to break the pattern, to look forward and move forward. And forgiveness really reflects the love and mercy of our Almighty God in our lives. And as Christians, we are called to be kind, tender hearted, and willing to forgive, just as God uh, forgave us through Christ. And instead of holding onto our anger, guilt, or our unrealistic expectations, we surrender them to our Almighty God and allow His peace to guide us. And through forgiveness, we grow spiritually and protect our hearts and reflect Christ's love in the way we treat others and even ourselves.
So with that, we're going to proceed to our verse of the week for this week here on Faith and Melody, which is titled Practice Forgiveness. Let's all listen to this.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brother Matt Carl Talix. If you've ever had a misunderstanding with someone close to you, you know how tough it can be. Sometimes it's easy to hold on to the hurt or frustration, but what can we do to mend our relationships and maintain peace with those we care about and even within ourselves? Well, we know that as God's children, He is always ready to listen and to forgive us. So we should do the same. If someone hurts us deeply, we should also be willing to communicate and to speak to them with kindness. Let's take the first step to work through our differences with others, ready to forgive when misunderstandings come up. We should do this because this is what the Bible teaches here in our verse of the week in Ephesians chapter 4 and the verses 32. And be kind to one another, tender hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgave you. To our friends, we also want you to experience the love of the brotherhood upheld in the Church of Christ. So join us in our Bible studies and let God's words guide us towards truly gaining peace of mind and heart. We hope you've gained inspiration from this verse of the week. Stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.
Thank you again to Brother Matt for that inspiring message to take with us for the week ahead. Really ties into our conversation and the importance of forgiveness with each other. So, with that, we hope that you've enjoyed our conversation today, everything that's been discussed, and we love the insights that our Ohana there in live chat have been sharing as well. So, to wrap everything up, Henry, any final words or any shout outs and greetings?
As always, shout out to my wife and my children who are just on the other side of this wall, always supporting me in every broadcast that we do. Shout out to my Central Europe family for tuning in. I saw Sister Grace, I saw Brother Joshua, I saw Kuya Johan all the way in Texas. So thank you to anyone and everyone who tunes into our broadcast on every Monday, making it part of your Monday dinner routine. And on to you, Belle.
Well, shout out to everyone who was able to join us, to Jay and Henry for always being here, and our technical team there in the Philippines. And also, happy birthday to my ate, ate Erica Sosino. So, happy birthday. It's her birthday today. So, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to Erica. Yes, she also prepared. Shout out to her because she also prepared today's conversation topic. So shout out to Erica for preparing today's topic, but also happy birthday from all of us here on Faith and Melody. Thank you as well to Henry and Belle. I know that you're both feeling a little bit under the weather, but you show up, right? You're here and you're sacrificing. So we truly love that, and you're sharing with us your insights. Thank you to everyone there in our live chat. We also love all your inputs that you're giving us. And of course, our text there in the main studio. Shout out to my wife, Jem, and to our daughter, Lena. And with that, once again, thank you to each and every one of you for joining us on today's conversation. I'm Jay here in Australia.
I'm Henry here in Germany.
And I'm Belle here in the United Kingdom, and we have been your hosts for today. We hope that today's episode has given you a positive start to your week ahead. And to close off our show, we will be listening to a song requested by Brother Rod Kahayag, which is Thank You. So join us again for the rest of the week on the next episode of Faith and Melody. And see you everyone on the next time, and take care.
Aloha.
Have a great week. Bye.
Never knowing what lies ahead. Will I make it in this world another day? Oh, there is light at the end of this road. A call from God we must follow.
As we walk this narrow path that leads to you, though we struggle, we're not alone. Side by side, we fight for our faith. We will complete our race. Lord, we can feel you calling. Africa. say